Euro Hoop Life doing an interview with John Saint-Ignon, and we're going to be talking about Mexico. John, how's your day going?
Oh, it's fantastic. Thanks for having me, bud.
Awesome. Well, let's just dig right into the details. You played it. You coached in Mexico. What was the city? What was the team name? Go into the details of what happened when you first got down there and how you got in
Yeah.
contact with the team.
So I was there in two different cities at three different times. So I went to Culiacan, which is in Sinaloa, Mexico, on the coastline, and then that was part of the LNBP, the biggest league at the time. And back then, we had 24 teams, and it was remarkable. You play four times a week, massive amount of travel, flying, hotels, you name it, and it was a great experience. Got lucky, advanced the team to the top six, and then from there I went back into the United States. Another time that I went back was for another league called Ciba Copa, and Ciba Copa is more of a regionalized Pacific side only type of environment. So I went to a team called Nogales, right on the border of Arizona, right
Yep,
right
just
near
south of
Tucson.
Tucson. Yep, I was
Yeah,
actually did a parade when we won the national championship down there. So I went back to
yeah,
Tucson, and a couple of people like, "You came down to Nogales, and you were in our parade." So
yeah.
there's still nothing but
Huge.
love down there.
No, I mean, they were fanatics for basketball, definitely for U of A for sure.
Yeah.
And then in their own town there, I mean, it was wonderful environment for basketball. And so that was the same environment. We played four times a week. You travel a lot, shorter time
Uh-huh.
period of 4 or 5 months only of the league. And then again, I was able to return back to Culiacan, this time to stay in that Ciba Copa again
Okay.
and play that same regimented schedule four times a week.
So how was it when you were there? Like, what were some of the gyms? Because I remember we would take a long 8-hour bus trip, and we would, and I actually played for Tampico, which is on the Gulf side, the eastern side of the South side
Yeah.
of Texas, and we would have to take an 8-hour bus trip, and then we'd play against an outdoor, and it was more for like, hey, let's go to a small city, accelerate the information or the exposure of basketball. But we were sitting right next to a pig farm, and it smelled like manure the whole time. But then we go to the next gym, and it was indoor, nice gym. So you got a different array of quality of gyms in Mexico.
Yeah, no question. I mean, when I was in the LNBP, the gyms were standard, normalized, fantastic. There was nothing that was like that. There was one that's an outdoor in the Ciba Copa. That's you're essentially you're playing outside. It's covered,
It's a
but it's
dome, but then
open.
you get dragonflies flying through the gym.
Yeah,
And
I mean, man, the floor was wicked. I had never seen this before. It was uh, kind of like a rubber substance, and so it's outside, right? So it gets dust, and they would put Coca-Cola on it, and that's what made it tacky. And it was,
wow.
I mean, they were ingenious. It was tacky, but I mean, your shoes were
Yeah, but if
sticky.
there's humidity and you get water, then it's slippery, and then
Hey,
then
man,
yeah.
it was a wild adventure to play in that city. That was a city called Navolato, and I mean, it is out in the open, and yeah, it's dirt town. It's a
Well,
tough
what would
place
you
to play.
recommend? So if you is, let's say this. So we both played in the Pac-10. We've also seen high level basketball.
Yeah.
What Euro Hoop Life is specifically like an Angie's list for international basketball players, and we want to be able to recommend whether it be good for living situations for the wives or the kids or the girlfriend that comes over? Is it safe for a female, like in Turkey, to walk around by themselves when they get approached, thinking that
Right.
they're prostitutes because they don't have a man next to themselves? So overall, how is Mexico for? What would you recommend the FIBA Copa? What would you recommend for a basketball player for finances, stable situation, best situation playing down in Mexico?
Yeah, the finances are going to vary, right? They're going to vary per team. There are some teams with an incredible amount of budget, but I wouldn't go down there expecting you're going to make a lot of money. You're definitely going to use that as a stepping stone, especially if you're using it in the spring, because many players there are not many spring leagues. So let's say you're playing in Europe for 6 months. If you want to get a 10-month contract, you go right there to the spring type of leagues, and now you're not on a couch. You're still making money, and you're still utilizing it
Staying in
to
shape.
your benefit. You're definitely playing, and it can catapult you into other categories, because there have been many players that have come out of there and done very well for themselves. And so with that set in mind, that's what you're trying to do. Lots of players say I play. but I got to get paid for it. Yeah, there's limited amount of jobs in the world.
Sometimes you need to stay active, stay where you're just sitting there. If you said stay out of the game and you're not signed for 2 years, you're kind of pushed to the side and you're pushed to the bottom of the stack.
Yeah. So the perspective about like living there with someone, right? So I had my entire family with me when I was in Culiacan, and we didn't fear any of that stuff, but because I'm not, if you're in the drug trade, then you're definitely going to have problems. You're dealing with the stuff that goes on with it, and so like my advice was to my athletes, do not abuse the women. Do not go down that route. You definitely can have relationships, but don't abuse that, because you never know who that,
who that person's connected to.
It's a son, daughter, someone. Next, don't get into drugs, because if you do, you're entering into the world of that too.
That's their territory, and that's where they reign supreme.
Man, 2 categories, that are there. But if you're an athlete and you're dedicated to your craft, then they're there to absolutely support you. And you go out at night and you're treated as accordingly as athletes are. When you win, you're a hero. When you lose, it's not so good.
Crazy story. When I was playing in Tampico, we had a teammate of mine I was on, and then he had a teammate in Juarez, Texas. And he was saying that usually in Mexico, they'll stay in a hotel. Maybe you'll drive around to the practice facilities. You'll have a team bus. And he said his team bus in Juarez, Texas, was driving down the street, after a practice, going to a little restaurant, a little shopping center. And this Hummer pulls out right in front of him, just comes to a screeching halt. The bus driver sits there, what the heck? 2 guys get out with assault rifles. He kicked the bus in reverse, drove over the little island, and went the other direction. He's like, they were basically about to, whether it be kidnap or jack them for whatever their situation was. So they started practicing in the gym or in the hotel from then on. They never drove to the practice. He's like, this just happened 3 days ago. So there are some horror stories down there with situations, but like you said, respect the situation, respect the culture that you're in, and usually you're not going to have to deal with anything.
Yeah, usually you're not going to have a problem, because you're using it as a stepping stone to do other things with your career. Yep. Because I, as a coach, look back at somebody's past history. Are they active? If they're not active, it leads me to my own conclusions. Why not? Why aren't you playing? Are you not good enough? Are you asking for an extreme amount of money? I mean, what's the reason?
Yeah. So overall, how would you rate Mexico? Like, what are some the goods? I mean, how would you rate, like, as a recommendation, like you said before, use it as a stepping stone. It's not you're going to get between $3,000 to $8,000 a month based off your skill level, the team you're playing for. But it's also, I feel that there's certain places getting over to Europe, getting into China, playing in Japan are a good place to be able to be seen as a mecca or a centralized area for good quality, consistent basketball.
Yeah, so the pros of getting into Mexico is that there's more imports than many places have. Some teams have 4 to 5 imports per team, so that gives you more of an opportunity, more supply to get in there. But this is a performance-based industry. When you were a junior or a senior in college, they couldn't wait for you. Your coach said, "I can't wait for you to see what you're going to be like when you grow into junior year," so on. That's potential. Right? You lost a game. They don't mess with you. They don't put you in the green room. They don't say it was Bennett's fault we lost the game. Yep. Nobody does that. But now you enter the pro world, it's performance based. I don't care how you slept. I don't care what problems you had with your girlfriend or wife. Did you perform tonight? And performance is not only the 20 points per game, it's also the win. And if you didn't win, you can be assured that maybe that other coach is going to say it was your fault, and therefore I can replace you tonight. And it does happen.
And then you come down from the hotel and there's an American sitting there to say, "Hey, we need to talk to you." It's like, "Hey, we're on the next flight home."
Many agents give the advice to their athletes that way, like just go and wait and see it out. And so they're hawking you, and that's just makes no sense. There's a lot of guys that do that, and they're just hanging around thinking that they're better, and they're waiting for that opportunity. I don't like it, but that is what can happen there.
Awesome. Well, John, thank you. I mean, this is about Mexico, and it's about giving information and educating agents and future players on contracts. So we want players to use this as a functional video archive at EuroHooplife YouTube channel. So how can people reach out to you, since you have a wealth of knowledge of being around in the basketball game for 20, 30 year plus?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on every form of social media, from Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can find me at my name. You just look me up, John, John Saintignon, and you can find anything you want.
And I'll have your first and last name entered into the contact, so we'll have it out front.
Wonderful.
John,
okay,
thank
my
you
man.
for your time and information.
Likewise. Thanks, bud.
Yep.